if you look at it as a fish pond, some people left in the turn of 1900s. They left Macau mainly because of the economy and the jobs left. The pond was too small for them to swim in.
Story, which you probably don't know, that after the British beat the Chinese in the Opium War, they forced the Chinese government to have 5 treaty ports. It started off with 5. Canton, that means Xiamen, Swatow, Shanghai, Hangzhou, Tianjin. I think these were the 5 treaty ports. But then Britain made a treaty with China. These are your cities, these are your ports. And you have, but the customs officers to keep a control of everything. And the customs officers of your Chinese treaty ports must be foreigners. Mm-hmm. What an insult. What an insult to the Chinese. Well, the Chinese accepted that because at least the foreigners keep to the rules and are, on the whole, more honest. They say, we have our own Chinese customs officers, China will be robbed blind.
In these treaty ports, many Macaenses were there as well, born there,
yes,
worked there.
Yeah.
Amoy, for example.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the story is that a British company doing well in Hong Kong, maybe trading very successfully in Hong Kong, saw that there's a demand for their product in Swatow, in Amoy, or something like that. And okay, we open an office there. And who do they get to man these offices? Somebody that knows something about business and speaks English, you know. So young Portuguese men and women go up to these treaty ports for foreign companies and enjoy not a European style income and life, but at least a higher percentage. A foreign officer, they get very good terms, better than staying in Hong Kong. Right?
My grandfather lives in the Philippines, and then the last place he lived in is in Amoy.
Amoy, yeah, in China.
That's where he was the honorary Portuguese consul. My grandfather.
He was honorary consul. Can you speak a bit about that? About that?
All I know that he was an honorary consul
in Amoy.
In Amoy, because he either owned or worked in a shipyard in Amoy, and so he because of his profession there, he was nominated to be the consul general. Honorary consul. And I tried to verify that with my cousin, who was born in there, he says, I can tell you, except I see a lot of important documents, you know. So he says that they live in a very important, nice house. A lot of important people come. So that's what it is. And all, because he was working in Amoy, all the children was born in Amoy.
Did you ever speak with other Macaenses who have this connection with Xiamen?
None. I don't know of any.
It's a very
Other than my cousins, but I don't know of any other Macaenses. I know there are a lot of other Macaenses that were living there.
My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was from Macau, born in Macau, had 13 children. Had 13 children. Then from Macau, his job became better. He moved to Hong Kong. And from Hong Kong, then all the children started to be educated in the English way. Some of them went to England to study. Others went to work in Shanghai, went to work in Canton. Some went to Japan to live. I have one cousin now in Guatemala. So what happened was these 13 people, these 13 children and their ancestors just started spreading all over Asia and the world. And now we have 131 relatives all over the world in different countries. And this is from my mother's side. From my father's side, my grandfather, my paternal grandfather, worked in the, I don't know what the name is in the English system, but it's like customs, foreign customs. And he would move, every 2 years move from city to city in China. So my father was born in Xiamen. Even though my grandfather came from Macau, Hong Kong, Xiamen, my father tells me stories that they lived in every part of what they call the treaty ports. I don't know what the treaty ports are, but I hear stories of my father saying when he was younger, they would go on these ships, they would go to Canton, they would go to Shanghai, Xiamen,
Ningpo.
I guess. I don't remember all these names.
My father's father did trade, and he was stationed in Shanghai.
He was Shanghai.
Yeah, and
But he was born in Portugal? No, your great grandfather.
I have no idea.
No idea. So you cannot trace back your ancestors to Portugal.
No, her dad was Portuguese, and they were all actually Portuguese. They spoke Portuguese. Her brother and sisters, they all left Hong Kong over time, and with their children, and came to Canada, to their relatives, Australia, to the U.S., to New York, San Francisco, and then in time, you lose touch with everyone. They were also always in Hong Kong, and a lot of them lived in Macau. But I guess in those days, you had to go to to Hong Kong to find work.
But okay, here's a picture of my grandmother and my dad. It's my grandmother of my dad and my uncle, and I think genteel and
That's in Shanghai?
I think this is Shanghai, yeah.
So, that's your dad here?
Yes.
Your granddad?
No,
Your grandmother?
this is my dad. This is my
Grandmother?
grandmother.
Yeah, you can see they already
Right.
they already Macaenese. You can see the Chinese
Right. Yes.
thing. You cannot trace back in Portugal your relatives. You cannot trace back.
I don't think we went that far. No.
Yeah. But most probably was from your father's side, who came from Portugal, Sousa.
Probably, yeah.
So can you just show me, just I take a picture?
Em Fujão, Chile. Porque o pai dela foi viver quando eu estava ali.
O pai dele foi...
Tem um negócio em Fujão.
Em Fujão. Mas ele veio de Macau para Fujão? Não.
Não.
Já não tem memórias. Você era muito pequenina.
Sim.
E de Fujão foi para onde? Para Hong Kong?
Macau.
Para Macau?
Sim. Depois Hong Kong.
My mother's family actually were in Hong Kong quite early on after the first settlements of Hong Kong. And so they moved, my grandparents were both born, on my mother's side, my grandparents were both born in Hong Kong.
If you would like to try the jumpa-roomba, come on and jumpa-roomba. It is the latest dance now. I'm gonna show you how. You see, it's just like any other roomba.
So the people who originated in Macau have gone all over the place, even in those times, even before I was born.
Our family, the Carvalho, they like the Xiamen, Philippines, Moyes, Saigon, Shanghai, Hong Kong. They don't stay in one place.
My grandfather, he got lots of children, and one is my father, my uncle Shane, my auntie Nata, Maria, Jai we call her, Jai, and then Dolly, right? And then he also has 2 or 3 children. Those days are merchants. They don't call, businessmen. They call merchants. Those old days.
From Shanghai to Hong Kong and then to the Philippines.
Actually from...
The Patello.
Shanghai, Hong Kong, Philippines.
I mean, Tony Patello went from actually the Philippines to the U.S.
Yeah.
To D.C. He spent 4 years in D.C. They owned a big shipping company in Manila called Patello Bulk. Had exactly four bulk, four big ships of 24,000 metric tons each.
And what business they did?
Shipping.
From where?
From
Manila?
Actually, from Manila to the west coast.
I would say that perhaps 60% of Macaenese men in Hong Kong work for the banks. HSBC, the number one bank, had maybe 50% of them, but they were American banks, Chase Manhattan, First National City, there were Dutch banks, all different types of banks. Somehow they generated to the banking world as distinct from Macau, where there was only one bank allowed by law, one Western bank allowed by law, Banco Nacional Ultramarino. So the young men of those in Hong Kong, salaries were somewhat higher, somewhat more prestigious, so young men and young women continually flowed into Hong Kong. To be a chemist or engineer, you had to go to a university. Cost money, cost time. But to be a lawyer under the British system of Hong Kong, you needn't have any of these. You didn't have to pay any big money. You got yourself apprentice. We call them article clerk. An article clerk in a big law firm in Hong Kong. You stay there for 5 years, and then you take an exam in London and take an exam in Hong Kong, and then you admitted into the legal system a practicing lawyer of Hong Kong. So that there are more lawyers in Hong Kong as time goes on, because you didn't need big cash, Another higher occupation of the Hong Kong Macaenese were medical. The Hong Kong University had a very, very good medical school, which was open for a very, very reasonable price for education, 4 or 5 year education in medicine. And once you got a degree from the Hong Kong University as a doctor, you could practice anywhere in the British Empire. Canada, Australia. Yeah. So these are the few top professions that Macaenese in Hong Kong enjoyed. But the bulk of them were working in the banks. Middle class, different hierarchy within the bank, but they were happy enough. Compared to Macau people, the salaries were probably double. But the cost of living was probably double too. Yeah?
my great-grandfather, he opened a dairy farm. He went to East Timor to open a dairy farm, but very soon he died in East Timor. So,
and was the secretary of business people. Yes. The first job I had was in the dockyard. I couldn't continue with my higher studies because my father died. So we had to look for a job. And fortunately, at that time, there was a friend of my family who knew my grandfather worked in the dockyard. And that dockyard is the only dockyard in the Far East. And so basically we get ships from all over the world. And my boss, it was my good fortune that he interviewed me and gave me a job, not because of what I can do, but in consideration of my grandfather's work in the area. I can still remember the place. There are ships from many warships and all from all over the world. He didn't ask for a resume or what. At that time I didn't know. So he said, well, how much do you expect? At that time, $15 Hong Kong was a lot of money. So I said $15. He said to me, do you think you are worth that much? I said to him, well, I don't know whether I think that I do, and you can try me. If I'm not good, you can send me away. But you'll find you'll like me, I told him. And he was a Scot, so tall, over 6 feet. So after a year's work, I went to him 6 months before. I said, well, it's your time that I should go for my annual holiday. He said, you haven't even started to work, you want to have a holiday?
But they were, I guess, very smart people and businessmen, and they conducted whatever business they could in Macau until it stopped. And then they had to move to Hong Kong, which was beginning to grow, and they could get jobs there. But their heart was always in Macau.
Uncle was one of the people in charge of the part of the bank in Hong Kong, and he brought a lot of the Macaenses from Macau and gave them jobs in Hong Kong. In fact, at one time, there was a newspaper article about him and all the Macaenses that he was able to help out by bringing them and giving them jobs. In fact, a lot of people I speak to, they say, I asked my mother what to do. He say, well, go and see Alberto Xavier, and he'll give you a job. So that was a nice thing to make me proud that my family was able to help a lot of the people there as well.
On the Carvalho side, my great-grandfather left for Hong Kong in the early days of Hong Kong British arrival, where there were jobs, whereas Macau, I guess not enough jobs. And that's where my grandfather was born, in Hong Kong.
For a year or more?
I think just about 6 months, because my father, who worked for the British government in Hong Kong, he had 6 months of home leave. And he would go after every 3 years, we would go home to Goa.
So you went several times to Goa?
I remember going more than one time.
Arranjaram com o governo para fazer certos projetos, etc. Por exemplo, a história do Kohoning, isso tem muita coisa a fazer com o meu pai. O meu pai ajudou o Kohoning. Sabes quem é Kohoning?
O Hoin?
Não Hoin, o Kohoning. É o outro. Hoin é o Kohoning. É o Kohoning. É comendador
sim.
Em Macau. Bem, o meu pai ajudou com uma tenda primeiro a fazer a sopa, não sei o que mais daquilo, depois uns projetos. São coisas que a gente já não sabe. Não só se esqueceram, ou não sabiam, nunca sabiam, ou já não sabem.
When the English took over Hong Kong in the Opium War, they came to get jobs.
Yes.
The whole idea of coming here is to get jobs, because there are no jobs in Macau. No business in Macau. Only jobs in Macau are government servants. polícia,
bombeiro.
Only government jobs, hospitals and things like that. So the only way they come is to go to Hong Kong, and when they come to Hong Kong, I would say about 60-70% of the men work in a bank.
In the bank.
Or clerks. In the bank. And not in the high class. High class.
Only
bife. Ingleses.
Só os bifes.
Bife. No baixo, chineses. No meio, nós. Portugueses.
Tivemos aquele espírito aventureiro. Seria uma coisa que nós herdamos dos portugueses? Possível. É possível.
But because they were Christian Catholics, the Chinese communists were watching them and tried to, give them a bad time. Finally, they have to leave.
I think my mother was mostly raised in Hong Kong. But during World War II, when she was a child, she was a refugee.
Then she was not born in Macau. She was born in Hong Kong.
She was born in Hong Kong.
Born in Hong Kong. Okay. Then she went as a refugee.
My mother, my grandmother were all born in Hong Kong.
We came to the United States because we lost everything as a result of the Second World War. We were very fortunate, and I thank God for that. We got the last ship out of Hong Kong to Macau. Fortunately, one of my uncles owned a lot of properties, and they shared the radio station Villa Verde.
You heard Lobo family? The Lobo family.
Yeah. We're related to the Lobos.
To the Lobos, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they had a house, and in the war, the whole family left Hong Kong, got to Macau, and they had a house to live in because of the Lobo family. They were related to
Roger Lobo.
Roger Lobo.
Yeah.
Tem na casa papiancusa ou cismã, bem de vivo ou murum, sossegado ou vadia, tá contente ou tá triste, raganhado ou chorã. Macau tem essa cabeça, eu toda hora tá lembrar. Olha cara conhecido, que azinha pergunta. Você de Macau ou nunca, assim pode papiar. Dia e noite na cabeça, de Macau eu tá pensando. Pensa de tempo antigo, de moderno ramata. Sabe por que eu sou maquista? Eu sou maquista de cor.